Hello, and welcome to episode 34 of Tom's Hirschsprung's podcast. I have another special Hirschsprung's guest with me this morning. I have Lauren Wood with me. She's going to talk about her Hirschsprung's diagnosis. We're going to have a lovely chat about dogs as well coming up. Welcome, Lauren, to the podcast.
Hiya, thank you for having me.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. As I often say, it is tricky to find people with Hirschsprungs, with it being such a rare condition, and even trickier to find people in England in Belfast, I guess. We're close enough. Um, close enough. To find people with Hirschsprung. So thank you so much for coming on. Now, as we spoke about a little bit beforehand, we are going to talk about your Hirschsprung's diagnosis and how you really want to raise awareness for invisible disabilities and illnesses, which I think is fantastic because it's something that's not still not hugely talked about really. And I know that you do a lot of advocacy work on your Instagram timeline. But if you'd like to just kick us off really with we'll start from the beginning. So obviously Hirschsprung's being diagnosed um, very early on, like most people really within. So how soon were you diagnosed with Hirschsprung's?
For me personally, I wasn't diagnosed. I was diagnosed quite late. Yeah,
Oh, right.
and diagnosed until I was about 19 or 20 years old.
Oh,
Yeah,
I misread that
yeah,
then. My
yeah.
fault.
I don't know if I did it incorrectly. I thought it was very hard to write in, and I was trying to read it. No, basically, originally they thought I had Crohn's disease, which is something they're actually thinking I have now. So I'm waiting for diagnosis of that pretty much. Um, Basically, I had like a colonoscopy done while I was in hospital basically, and it started with sort of like symptoms of excessive bloating, not being able to open my bowels, excruciating pain. I was just in and out of hospital constantly. And I was waiting to have the colonoscopy done as an inpatient, which kept getting cancelled basically. And then I decided, regrettably, to discharge myself and have it done as an outpatient. And when I went to have it done, they basically said that there was nothing they could see that was causing the symptoms, but they were so sure that it was Crohn's disease before that. And said there's not much else we can do, and sort of palmed it off as constipation. And I wasn't happy with that because, first of all, they obviously thought it was Crohn's disease and they were so sure. So I eventually got a referral to St Mark's Hospital, it's like a specialist hospital in London. And at this stage, like my bowel was so compacted, it was like on the brink of sort of, I don't even know, like exploding or like bursting,
You're
whatever you.
perforating, yeah.
Yeah, that's the right term, perforating. And they did some tests there that showed that I had Hirschsprung's disease. And within, I think it was about a year, I was going into stoma surgery to have my stoma fitted. And they thought that that would be the best bet to help me out my symptoms at that time, basically. But yeah,
Yeah, no, that's sort of not necessarily the classic diagnosis then. So
no,
someone and that is very rare. I mean, it's rare to have a rare condition, but also rare to be diagnosed. And my apologies, I think I misread your form, so sorry about that.
sorry.
But very rare to be diagnosed with Hirschsprung's. So sort of later in life, I guess, at 19, 20 years old. So I guess growing up, you must have had, I don't know, I must have had sort of symptoms of Hirschsprung's growing up. Would that be right? Or did
Yeah.
this sort of come on later?
No, when I was sort of like born, I had a lot of problems with like not keeping my food down. I would projectile vomit a lot. Um, and sort of like not opening my bowels, but they weren't really, there was nothing like as such flagged up that was serious for me to be like in hospital. And then sort of when I got to sort of the age of when I can remember as such, like 6, I think I was, and I had this really bad pain. And I went into hospital and they were actually going to remove my appendix at that time. And I got so frightened. I turned around and said my pain had gone. and it
Oh,
hadn't.
wow.
Yeah, so then it's
Okay.
sort of like I came out of hospital after that, and things sort of like were up and down. I'd have like flare ups as such. It was a way of putting it, like where I'd have like be in pain and not being able to open my bowels. And then it sort of got into sort of my teens, like secondary school, and I started getting like more frequent flare ups. And then my bowels just wouldn't open at all. And it was the maximum I've gone is 5 months with no bowel movement.
Good Lord. Wow.
So yeah, I would look so, so bloated. It was like it almost looked like I was 6 months pregnant at times. Horrendous. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I had a lot of different symptoms like that, and it just kept getting palmed off as, oh, you've just got constipation. Just take some laxatives and that'll sort it.
And they presumably didn't do the trick.
No, I was on a lot of laxatives, like every, like oral, back
Yeah.
passage, everything. The horrible ones, the weaker ones, but
But that
nothing's help.
you can see slightly how they would diagnose as Crohn's, because if it was just sort of, because Crohn's, and again the research I've done and the people that I've talked to do have flare ups occasionally, and they go, right, I'll have a flare up, then it'll go back down, then flare up, then go back down. So I guess just looking at it from the outside, that you can sort of see why they just thought, oh, it's Crohn's. But were you sort of officially diagnosed with Crohn's, or did they just think it was?
Basically, I got rushed in again. I had appendicitis and I had my appendix out when I was 20. No, I was a bit younger than that. I think it was about 17 actually when I had my appendix out. And that's when they woke me up and said, we've removed your appendix, your colon is extremely ulcerated and not in a good way, and we're almost sure that you have Crohn's or ulcerative colitis. And those are the way they said it to me. It was like, we're almost sure. We need to do a colonoscopy to get the biopsy to make sure that what we're saying is true. And then, like I said, I regrettably had to wait so long and discharged myself and had it done as an outpatient, and then never got an official diagnosis,
Wow.
basically.
Wow. So that
So
took a lot longer.
yeah,
So I was also having a look at your other medical conditions as well, and I think again the box I provided probably wasn't big enough. I think I probably need to extend that box a little bit for some people. But just a list of um, various conditions like megacolon as well and slow transit and colonic inertia, were these all diagnosed at the same time, or did you have to wait for sort of each one to be diagnosed separately?
all of those were sort of diagnosed around the same time as Hirschsprung's, because I was like undergoing a lot of different tests, like the balloon up the back passage and the biopsy and all different things like that. Scans, and I had to take like a capsule, and they had to do a scan to check where it was in my digestive system after a certain amount of time. And those were around that time that I was diagnosed with sort of all of those conditions. And then that's when we decided that the best way going forward was to give me a stoma.
Yeah. And what age was this where you had the stoma?
I was 21.
21. Okay. So sort of few years ago now. And that's sort of normal ostomy with sort of bag and everything.
Yeah, with my I have an ileostomy, so
Fantastic. And when you obviously when I had my stoma, I was a lot younger and probably I know we were talking sort of off air, and I don't think I sort of realised the what it sort of meant. I guess having a stoma, I just had it, and I do often wonder what it would be like if I'd had it when I was older. How did you? I don't want to use the word cope with having a stoma, but sort of how did you adapt, I guess, to life with a stoma, or was it just sort of like I've got this and carry on? How did that work?
at the start, I'll be honest, I did struggle a lot compared to now. Like I'm completely different. Okay, yeah, I have my hard days and I have things still going on with my health, and I'm still taking a lot of medication and in pain and stuff. But I see it as part of me now. But at the beginning, it was quite difficult. I was not expecting I had emergency surgery, which I didn't cover in my other chat. Basically, I had a twisted bowel, and what's it called? A peristomal hernia. Is that the right way of putting it? It was behind the stoma, basically. I'm not sure how I even got a hernia because it was 5 days after I had my stoma surgery. So I just spent the time laying in a bed. So I'm not quite sure how I got a hernia, but I did. And obviously my bowel twisted as well, and they had to do emergency surgery. And I was lucky to come through that. So like that hindered my recovery a lot. And coping with the bag, I'd almost just got used to looking at it, and then I was being rushed back in and having it like refashioned slightly, and because of all the problems I had, and I had to like start all over again. And mentally it was quite tough. I couldn't empty it. I couldn't even look at it. I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't. There was a lot of things I couldn't do at the start. Now it's like I look back on that and I'm like, was that even me? Did I have I come that far? I can leave the house. I can empty it myself. I can look at it. It's like I couldn't even let somebody else clean it or touch it now because it would be a bit funny. Back then, it was most like the opposite.
Yeah. No, fantastic. And well done you for that, because that is it's something I see quite often with people who have new stomas, and it's that possible social anxiety and sort of getting over that that initial fear, and that can take a while, and it's different for everybody. You know, some people just have it and go, right, it's part of me, and get on with it. Some it takes, you know, a few months, some it takes a few years. You know,
Yeah,
it's but but really well done you for that. Because I've seen obviously a lot of your Instagram stuff, and having that stoma is tough, you know, and especially early on, because it's something completely new to get used to, that
yeah.
it's part of your
It's like
body.
as well that I was sort of like 21. You sort of want to go out with your friends. You want to have fun, and I spent a lot of it quite unwell and trying to survive almost. So, but I got through it, and that's what matters.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's a great inspiration for anybody who's either prepping for stoma surgery or has just had stoma surgery, or might have even had it for a few years and still feels a little bit sort of uncomfortable for it. And I think the more awareness that's raised for people like you and your Instagram account, um, I think for the better. And just on Instagram, I guess, because you do share a lot of medical info on there. What made you think sort of, right, I really want to share my story?
Um, I think at the start, when I first got my stoma, I wasn't on socials really. I didn't openly speak about it, and I didn't really know anyone, and I didn't sort of speak to anyone for support really. I felt quite alone. And when I sort of started going into the world of Instagram and suddenly seeing sort of like young people with stomas living life, going on holiday, spending time with friends, whatever it is what they were doing, it made me sort of want to join in on that and tell my journey, and maybe telling my journey might help someone else.
That's fantastic. That's brilliant. And how old were you when you started that sort of Instagram account?
Um, I think I started it during COVID,
Okay.
actually. Yeah, so it wasn't like it's quite a while into my journey. I have in my bag, what, 10 years now. So it was
Wow.
quite to it before I did, but the fact that I've done it is I'm speaking to other people all the time, every day. I speak to people and I help other people, and I enjoy doing that.
That's fantastic. No, that's brilliant, because that's another reason why I really wanted to talk to you, because I think we come from that similar outlook in terms of, we want to, you know, we're not here to give medical advice. You know, we're not doctors.
No.
Um, I'm certainly not bright enough to be a doctor. So we're not doctors. But at the same time, you know, if we can share our stories, then more better. And you're a lot braver than I am, because you know you shared your story in your early 20s. It took me till I was 31 to
Wow.
to only set this up last year. So it took me, yeah, a long time for me to actually think, you know, I can probably feel comfortable in sharing my story now. So yes, kudos to you, because you're a lot braver than I am was at 21. Um, but I'd love to sort of switch tack slightly, if I may. And we were talking about at the start that you do have quite a few hobbies, interests, and one of the main parts of this podcast, or one of the main themes or features, is that I want people to know that even though they have Hirschsprungs in our case, or in
Yeah.
another chronic illness when I interview other people, that it shouldn't necessarily stop you from doing things that you want to do. Yes, that I'm not going to sort of gloss over some of the facts that sometimes times are difficult, and health wise some things are tricky, but there are so many people out there like you who do so many great things and do so many wonderful hobbies that your Hirschsprung doesn't stop you doing. And one of our sort of shared passions, I guess, is dogs. Um, would you like to talk a little about let me get this right as well. A Snorky. Have I got that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Lovely. I've pronounced it correctly. Would you like to tell me a little bit about your Snorky?
Well, she's a mini schnauzer and a Yorkie mixed together. She's 11. Basically, long story, she's technically not mine. She's mum-in-law's, but she now stays with us more because of the fact that my mum-in-law's not well. So I look after her. She's like my best friend. I absolutely adore her. Literally, like I spend all my time with with the dog. But yeah,
Fantastic.
I love her to bits.
Oh, brilliant. Do you have any sort of traits or features which make her interesting?
She when she wants like belly rubs, she'll do this weird, like it's hard to explain. She like puts a bum up in the air and sort of like moves it around, falls on her back with her legs in the air, like as if to say, like, come on, belly rubs.
Yeah, yeah, come on, get on with it.
Yeah, she
Oh,
loves
bless her.
the ball as well. She likes playing with her balls.
So,
Uh,
yeah, nice.
I didn't realise what.
Yeah. Do we mean tennis balls there? Do we mean
Yeah,
tennis ball? We
it's
did
balls.
good, good. Just so we're clear, and I don't get off conned. We're clear. Um, no, exactly the same with my dog. Actually, she loves a tennis ball. Absolutely loves a tennis ball. Um, so you said your Snorky's 11. Um, still very energetic at 11.
Yeah, she is. She is. She has got a problem with her spine. I don't exactly know what it's called, but she has like a spinal condition. So when she's running around, she'll run around on three legs.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems to work for her at the moment, but I don't know whether when she gets a little bit older, whether it will start becoming a hindrance. But she seems full of beans running around.
Fantastic. Oh, that's really good to hear. And your other passions as well, dancing and music. How sort of beneficial have they been in sort of coping post-surgery?
Music was a big thing for me. I wouldn't say dancing post surgery because it took a while for me to
Oh yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
physically be able to. Um, but when it comes to music, it's almost like saved me. There was a particular song that I listened to when I had my stoma surgery and I was home and I was discharged. And I used to listen to it repeatedly. It used to help me get to sleep. It used to help me just like think and feel clear and calm. It was a song by Miley Cyrus, actually, called Adore You. Nothing in particular that she says that was related to what I was enduring, but it was just that particular song. I don't know, it just had something that made me feel calm at that moment when I was recovering. So
But
I
nothing,
love
nothing in
that.
particular with lyrics or tune or anything, but just
Not really. If I thinking back to the song, maybe if you think about it, it might have been deep down thinking about myself, like learning to love myself. I don't know.
yeah. That's interesting because I can't think of the song off the top of my head at all. So
I'm not.
I no, play. No, I wasn't going to ask you to sing it. It's okay. It's all right. Um, no, I can't think of the song at all. But yeah, if anybody knows, please let me know. Um, and just talking just another part as well about surgeries. You said you've had 13 surgeries.
Mhm.
Um, it's an unlucky number to have
Yeah,
surgeries on. Did you not get the feeling to think, oh, I'll just have one more, get off 13, you
My
know?
13th year, actually, it was in February, so it's typical that it was like recently that it made it 13.
But
But
not thinking of going for a 14th just to get off that 13 number.
hope not.
No, that's good to see. Um, and you also pointed out as well that the ostomy that you were given saved your life as well. Do you want to expand a little bit more on that?
It was more of the fact that like my bowel was so compacted and so like not functioning basically that I genuinely don't think I would have lasted much longer with not having the surgery to intervene and give me better quality of life. Okay, yes, like I said, I am still in pain and I have to take a lot of medication, but the fact that I'm living and my bag, okay, yes, I still suffer with like blockages and stuff, but my bowels are opening a lot more than what they did before my stoma. So for that, I'm thankful for being able to carry on living pretty much.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I'm really glad that that's happened for you as well. And just as we sort of go towards the end, in terms of future for you, again, feel free to share as much or as little as you like. Um, but in terms of future for you, health wise, what do you think that sort of looks like? Have you been given any idea?
For me at the moment, where I'm dealing with quite a lot of symptoms on a daily basis, and I'm waiting for like an urgent colonoscopy, and they're saying that it might be Crohn's again. Obviously, at the minute, I'm feeling a bit anxious about sort of like what's coming. But if I'm able to get that diagnosis of Crohn's, which I genuinely think I've had this whole time, then maybe my quality of life, I might be able to come off morphine and be pain free. That's like my goal. I'm trying to think of that. And obviously, I want to be a mum as well, and I'm trying to like go down that route. So I'm hoping that by pushing them to help me out with these symptoms and getting this done, that my future will be a bit more bright.
Fantastic. And in terms of sort of hobbies wise, and your Instagram account, what would you like that to look like in the future?
Obviously, we all like to have more followers on there so that more people seeing what you're doing, because it's sometimes you're doing it and you're like, is this a waste of time? This is not reaching enough people. But if it reaches 1, 10 people, that's enough. That's enough people for me to know that what I'm doing is good enough. But obviously, I'd love to see myself on a billboard with my stoma out. That's a dream for me. Um, yeah, I'd like to meet people in person. I've not actually met any mates in person yet. And yeah, in 10 years, I haven't. So I'd like to push myself to go and meet people, put like face to face.
Yeah. No, I think that's fantastic. And I think I echo that as well because I know I've said this a couple of times before on other episodes, but I never knew anyone with Hirschsprungs growing up. I mean, I did teach somebody with with Hirschsprungs. So I was a teacher for a decade. So I did teach one person, but that was the only person I ever knew. So thankful to Instagram for people like you, for everyone
Uh-huh.
who's come to this podcast, um, who has Hirschsprungs, because I've learned so much just about the condition that I never knew.
Yeah.
Is it a similar thing for you? Have you learned quite a lot from sort of not meeting other people, but kind of online meeting? Guess.
It's hard because like you said, there's not that many people with Hirschsprung online. It's like a couple of people I know, not even I'd say a handful. I'm not even going to say two handfuls of people. It's more obviously the more attention is IBD. A lot of that you see
It is, yeah.
good, obviously, but like it's good to sometimes see those people talking about rare disease and things that are not as common.
Yeah, yeah, and that's when I wanted to start this really and try and get as many Hirschsprungs people as possible because I saw
Mhm.
that nobody had ever had ever started a Hirschsprungs podcast before because it is so rare.
I've not.
Um,
So well done to you.
so it's something that isn't talked about as much because, as you said, not many people have it. So I think, and I think around, I mean, this is the 34th episode. It's something around 60%, maybe slightly higher than that, 62, 63% of people who've been on here have Hirschsprungs from all over the world. So
Wow.
hopefully now there is a sort of bank of experiences. So if you ever, if anybody is ever thinking, oh, but what's it like at this age or that age, we can give a we can't tell you exactly what's going to happen, obviously, but we can give a rough idea of what it's like to live with for some people. So hopefully it does a bit of good. But I just want to say thank you so much for coming on, for
Thank
sharing your story. Oh, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on, for sharing your story, for being so open as well. Because like I said, at 21 or 20, 21, you're
you.
21?
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, I I don't think I would be as open as you are. So hats off to you for that. I think that's fantastic. And just lastly, where can people find you and follow your story?
oh, my Instagram is known as stoma chick. So what's dot underscore dot x? I can't even remember what it is now, but it's stoma chick dot x underscore x or something. I can't even remember what it is. I'm terrible. I don't even know my own social media handle.
You can find Lauren at stomachick.x_x.
That's it.
I promise I've remembered that off by heart and haven't just checked my phone whilst we've been recording. Um, but that's where you can find Laura. You can find up to date with stories, how she get on, etc. So again, from me, thank you so much for coming on, and I wish you all the luck with health, stoma, Hirschsprungs, and everything in the future. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.